We're going to continue our EdgeFlow conversation with what we call the EdgeFlow alphabet. And we were dealing with what I call positive shapes. The other part of the conversation is when you need to start what I call cutting holes into topology. And there are certain things that you do all the time to try to work with hole creation on a variety of levels. And depending on how close we're going to get, that might impact the resolution. But there is a language to hole creation. And if I turn it on, you can see some of these formations. And one of the most important shape formations that you'll run into, it'll be something like this, and it'll be something like that. This happens all the time in modeling in some fashion, and this is the higher resolution version of that shape. All right? So this becomes extremely valuable to the conversation of EdgeFlow and how we start dealing with hole creation. Now these are also variations, and depending on the scenario, some of them are more useful to us than others, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Again, while these are, I would consider to be more important, these are also part of the conversation as well. So if we had to kind of look at punching a hole in something like this cathedral shape, well, what would the EdgeFlow be? All right. Well, we have, believe it or not, the answer in the stuff that's done already. Now we could probably take something like this and work with it, or maybe we take something like this. Maybe we'll start with the idea of that flattened pipe tool. All right. And then we'll bring it up here. So I'm going to move it in position. That, and I might have to make a shape adjustment. And then from there, I got a couple of options. All right, I can go ahead and then pull that down, and then move this over, snap to the shape, and then you could go ahead and extrude down. Now the problem that you run into with the shape, of course, is if you're anticipating the fact that this is going to be a 3D object, at some point this formation can be a little bit of an issue in terms of the EdgeFlow pattern. These junctions tend to be problems. Now, if we're working with the bevel, what's good about 2016 is that if we were to turn this into a dimensional shape, it'll cut through that star junction and create its own pathway around the object. So that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select these faces, extrude for depth and thickness, and then I'm just going to go ahead and select the edges that I need to make sure that this shape keeps. So what will happen is the bevel will cut through the star junction and create that little pathway around that we so like, as you can see here, and that becomes pretty darn useful to us and saves us a little bit of the cleanup that we used to do to make that work. All right? And so while that trail going around is very thin, it does do the same thing of kind of, I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger so you can see it. It has that function of creating the alleyway or pathway around the object, which is really critical to get that coming all the way around. Now this won't go all the way around. Oh, that's interesting that it did this on this part here. That's because I didn't have an edge selected. So that's one of those also issues that you run into if you forget to select edges that are contiguous or continuous that you know are going to need. This is one of the down parts about using the bevel tool. If you forget to select edges that you need, sometimes you'll get those artifacts. So let me go back and select those and make sure that those will do what I need them to do. And then I'm going to go right here, bevel edge. There we go. Much better. So the bevel tool is definitely working to kind of help with the issue, and definitely I welcome it as an improvement over other iterations of Maya to deal with this issue. All right. And again, that's a shape that shows up a lot in modeling. Same thing with this guy. So again, this shape has got its sources, and actually what we can do is we can just steal from one of these guys. Maybe I'll just grab these faces and then duplicate face, and then use that to kind of help me build this shape. And then maybe I'll just grab all of these and then use the curve to snap to. Same thing with this. And then what I'm gonna do is actually gonna get rid of these. No, I made them. It's kind of funny. Made them so I can delete them. But really what I want to do is I'm just going to use half of that edge flow pattern and then pull that out, and then I can go ahead and then mirror the geometry and then get to the other side. Okay, so now we have our pattern here, and then again, if we wanted to make this a dimensional object, we could, and it'd have similar dynamics to this one in terms of where the corners would be something where we'd have to worry about cleanup on the edge flow. But the good news is that the new bevel tool will kind of give us that sort of cleanup for free, so to speak, because of the way it manages our corners. So let me go ahead and just put it in. There you go. And then you can just bevel that, and then we get that working as well. All right. And just so you know, that's also the beginning of, other formations as well. So we kind of did a shape like this, a shape like this. Well, what happens when we have something that's a little bit more complicated? Something like this. Well, this is where we got to get a little bit more thoughtful with the way we arrange these edge flow patterns to be able to get something like this. Shapes that fall in this category could be something as simple as like die-cut metal. And again, there's a method to the madness if you start drilling down. Now, it just so happens that I happen to have already the means to be able to kind of use and work with these shapes just with these two guys right over here. Now, I'm going to make a deliberate decision to go with a lower res version of the circle with the two smallest circles, and then a larger, higher resolution version of the pipe tool flattened with this to solve it. And then we're going to create complexity based on working and bringing all those elements together. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just go ahead and start modeling. I'm going to go ahead and build this shape here, Command duplicate, and I'm just going to go ahead and use this form. And a lot of artists will actually purposely kind of keep what we call a kit of parts of tools and tool formations and shapes that they use all the time in their modeling just to move it along. This way they don't have to custom make this all the time. And if you're really savvy, you could probably turn them into action scripts or mel scripts within Maya, so that you could literally turn these tools into little buttons that appear at will. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'll keep this formation the way it is, and then I'm going to use it again, but maybe I'll use a smaller version. Maybe I'll just kind of take this guy, boom, duplicate it, and then I'm just going to move it over here, and then I'll make it a little bigger. And of course that means we're going to wind up having to thin the edge around this way, because now we're getting that to intersect. Bring that down a little bit narrower. So that gets that hole cut. Now we're going to go ahead and raid this shape. This shape has got a lot of value to us. It's a higher resolution one. So I'm going to duplicate that form, all right, and put that over here. And I'm going to go and get the inside part of that shape figured out first. So I can make it a little bigger. All right. Now once I've got it a little bigger, all right, I'm going to grab that outside loop and then make it smaller. So it's like something like that. And then once I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and delete half those faces. And again, if you want to make adjustments on how accurate that is kind of holding to the curves, you can always go into the actual geometry and then snap to curve if you need it to really conform to that part. So now I want to start arranging these, because what happens is a lot of artists get lost in some of this. And I don't want you to get lost in that. It's usually bridging and how do you kind of see the patterns. I'm always trying to kind of get something that's going to work in a grid form way so that I can actually see the edge flow patterns a little bit more easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and combine these shapes. I'm going to go here, here, here. Let's go ahead and do a combine so that Maya sees it as one shape. There you go. All right. So now I'm going to start bridging parts of the model together. Let me go get my target weld. Maybe I'll move that. Well, that's interesting the way that kind of works. So let's go over here. Shift right click, target weld, pull that over. So I might kind of position some of these verts in a certain way. Maybe I'll bring that back this way it's not quite so tense. Or again, we don't want to abuse the verts, but we definitely want to kind of get them to play nice together. Maybe I'll flatten these and get these a little bit more lined up over here. Whoops. Hold down. There we go. This one, I definitely think this one can go here. So let's go and just target weld that. Target weld, and then grab this corner. There we go. So we're kind of making our connections. So now we got to decide, well, how do we want to... Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this guy temporarily. Don't really need this formation right now. I'll come back to it in just a little bit. But I do know I want to kind of open this edge up, because I'm going to actually start thinking about how I want to create the holding edges for these corners. Let's go ahead and fill in the gaps over here and over here. Here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to actually go ahead and kind of organize this so it's a little bit easier from how Maya likes to look at stuff, and also just how you look at it, how you see it. So it's easy for you to kind of find the patterns that are there and then just fill in what you need accordingly. So now the rest of this is kind of up to us, how we want to kind of line things up and fill in the rest of the shape. So now we're going to go ahead and bridge the gap. So it might be a combination of methods. You could extrude some of these shapes if you wanted to. If I wanted to go over here, I could probably go, let's grab this and this. Let's go grab these edges and then extrude the edges out. And then we got to decide how we want to handle this part. All right. So let me go ahead and put it into quad draw, because anything that has been manufactured like this, I can go ahead and go into quad draw. Let's turn it on. Let's turn on the modeling toolkit. Let's get quad draw on. Now we're into that mode. See, that triangle's quad can kind of help us do that. And then maybe, you know, I go over here to target weld tool and grab this guy. Whoops. That's weird that it's saving the selections. It's a weird 2016. I don't know if it's a bug, but it's definitely kind of going to this. So I need to find a way to deselect that. It's like a feature that I'm not sure I like. If it's a feature, well, I want to be able to turn that off and will, because it's remembering selections that I didn't ask it to remember. But there you go. So now from here, we're just going to go ahead and grab these edges. The edge is here. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Grab that edge all the way over, double click, extrude the edge, fill in, and then we can go over here and do the same. Extrude edge, hold down the C key, and then don't forget to go ahead and merge this vert, because sometimes you forget to do that, and that is going to create problems for you later on. So while it seemed like it might have been a complex problem to solve, by planning the edge flow from a flat perspective, we were able to create a situation where it was a little bit easier to manage. So it's mainly just, are you planning for the ability to kind of create a shape that will work for you when you make it dimensional. And now we can see how it works with holding edges. Let me go over here, extrude face, and move that up. Again, now it could be a lot thicker, it could be a lot thinner. The main thing is that we have it now as a 3D object planned for. And again, 3 key, just need some holding edges, and that can be created with the bevel or use of the insert edge loop tool. And again, some people like the bevel tool and some people like the insert edge loop tool. In this case, it's kind of an either or scenario. My only guiding star about whether or not I use the insert edge loop tool compared to the bevel tool is, you know, if I have some kind of level of confidence that the edge quality on the model is going to be unique or the same all the way around. If it's the same roughly all the way around, then you can go ahead and then use the bevel tool, because it's nice to be able to tweak the thickness of these shapes all at once. Now, there are times when there might be sharper parts of the model here compared to here, and in that case you either do 2 separate bevel passes. All right, so maybe I deselect this, maybe I need those thinner compared to the outside, bevel these guys and make that softer, and then these bevel edge, apply, and then here I might go and tweak it down to a smaller size, maybe go 0.1. So we want maybe a sharper edge quality there. And the truth of the matter is, the dynamics of hard surface modeling, you're going to have those variations on the same model. And that is what part of managing your shapes is all about, is by being able to see those differences and then put them in. Again, you've got to look at your reference, and then if I turn off that, you can see the difference between how sharp it is here in this area and in this area compared to how soft it is here. And again, that's a choice based largely on what your reference is telling you to do. But it all started with a flat shape. And this is sort of the beginning and the expansion of the language that we've been talking about all along when it comes to what I call the EdgeFlow alphabet. And understanding how to use these elements in combination with other elements can help build a broader, larger language for modeling, so that you, in fact, can truly build anything that you want. It's just a matter of seeing the patterns on the 3D forms that we're talking about, and then from there, turning that into topology that is smart, efficient, and beautiful.